Welcome back, bug boys and girls. Today I wanted to go on a research-related rant because I was reading through the news and then reading through a bunch of these articles, and it is just a travesty what gets published and presented as if it were legitimate science. So, how this started was with this Guardian article that I ran across today called Up to 3 Insect Species Become Extinct in Australia Every Week, report says. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Three a week? That's an insane estimate. So let's see what they were talking about. And so if you go through this article, and I'll post all of the research articles I'm talking about, or I'll link to them in the description. Um, if you go through this, and I'll link this Guardian article as well. The estimate is that whoever these researchers were, the estimate was that 9,000 invertebrate species have disappeared since European colonization of Australia, with another 39 to 148 species predicted to become extinct in 2024, despite the government's official records. And so I had to go find this article because that seems insane. But if you go through just what they were talking about here, these authors are from the Charles Darwin University in Australia, and they were talking about, as an example, this Tasmanian worm, which apparently could only be found on one beach of one lake, which went extinct when the lake flooded and killed everything on the beach. Not exactly a robust species, but anyway, they talk about that. They talk about how sometimes there's invertebrates that are only found in one specific cave, and then that cave dries out, or that cave collapses, or whatever. The cave becomes polluted, and now all of it is extinct, and these sorts of situations, which are understandable. Like, it's not really a tragedy or some great evil that these extremely limited species go extinct, that this is happening constantly in nature. But anyway, I had to look up this article, and it was this, published in Cambridge Prism's Extinction. The article is called "This is the Way the World Ends, Not with a Bang, but a Whimper." So already it's just off to an overly dramatic start, estimating the number of ongoing the ongoing rate of extinctions of Australian non-marine invertebrates. So this article is a shit show. And normally when I talk about other people's research, I'm usually pretty nice because having done research quite a bit in the past, I understand that it is a ton of work, especially if you're working with insects. A lot of the time, when you're doing field work, it means back-breaking labor, frequently in summer heat, in very hot, humid areas or jungles or whatever it is that you're doing, or trapping, having to take an enormous number of traps, or cutting down trees, or what have you, depending on the system that you're working in. It's a lot of back-breaking labor to get a small amount of data. And a lot of times when there's papers that have to be published, especially large papers, you're talking about 5 to 10 years of data collection in order to get enough information to publish a good paper. So normally I'm very forgiving, because when people are doing this research, when scientists are doing this research, there's a lot of effort that goes into it in order to glean small amounts of good information from nature, and then being able to present it in such a way that is respectable, and people in the field understand that there are limitations to the data that you're collecting, because you're talking about a very physical sort of thing. And then in the case of things like doing genetic work, a lot of the times, ask any geneticist, it's basically just black magic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And, when your extractions don't work, it's because you forgot to rub the tiki doll's stomach or whatever that you keep out on your computer. And there's just a lot of things that go wrong. So frequently, research is good, although not perfect, but because of just limitations on reality. Luckily, the people in this paper didn't suffer from that, because they didn't bother collecting any data. They wrote this incredibly lengthy, it's not incredibly lengthy, it's 11 pages, this very verbose, lengthy paper, based on nothing but conjecture, which is how this got published. I have no idea. But basically, their approach is, I should be nicer to these people. but I'm not going to be. It's a, actually, things are really terrible even if you don't know it, and all of these species have likely gone extinct, uh, and left no trace and no records of their extinction, and we actually didn't know these species existed in the first place. Um, and I can prove it by using other people's numbers that I am not going to verify and have no input in. So it basically, this whole paper could have been written by ChatGPT, because all it's done is combed the internet for literature, took other people's numbers kind of arbitrarily, smashed them together in order to come up with wild estimates for the rates of extinction. And this is, unfortunately, in the field of conservation biology, which I'll get into a little bit here in a minute, but what used to be good research by conservationists has apparently now they've gone down the route of, let's use the most extreme sorts of hyperbole in order to generate attention and maybe bring money and volunteers to our cause. So what happened in this paper is they were trying to estimate the rates of extinction based off of global estimates of the number of insects, global estimates on the number of invertebrates, and how many of those invertebrates are insects. Again, not using any of their own data. They didn't bother conducting any of their own science. They just took other people's things that they have no control over and didn't bother verifying any of those other things. And then applied that to Australia. And we'll go through here. So just these tables 1 and 2 are their the numbers that they used in their estimates. So for the number of insect species globally, they have 4 different estimates that are all over the place. So somewhere between 2.6 million and 21 million. So orders of magnitude difference. And then I noticed that 2 of these estimates are by the same person, one in 1993 and one in 2015. And the 2015 number is larger, but they use both numbers, which to me seems insane, because by publishing this number in 2015 is saying my previous work is not correct. Because if his previous work was correct, then why did he publish new numbers? A new correction to his old estimates. So why are you using the old estimate? This is insane. Like, by his own admission, by publishing new estimates, he's not happy with the previous estimates. So we have just 4 arbitrarily selected estimates, because there's lots of estimates out there for the number of insects globally. So why they picked these 4 is arbitrary, and they can justify it however they want, but fundamentally it's arbitrary. The number of insect species native to Australia is this estimate from 2009. Again, an arbitrary estimate that they have cherry picked. The ratio is from the same paper. Ratio of invertebrates to insect species is from the same paper, arbitrarily picked. Proportion of invertebrate species that are non-marine, arbitrarily picked from a different paper. So there's no consistency in any of this, because none of this is their own data. They literally just not randomly picked, arbitrarily picked other people's data that they liked. It's entirely cherry picked. And this non-marine thing will come up later, because they really stick their foot in it on the non-marine invertebrates versus marine invertebrates. Proportion of invertebrates that are native to Australia, 5.6 to 7.3%, 3 different papers. Again, no verification on their part. Number of non-marine invertebrate species in Australia, we have enormous numbers of estimates between 172,000 and 1.8 million. So who knows? And this is the other thing. They couch all of this in terms of plausibility, not probability, not possibility, but plausibility. So literally the lowest possible sort of estimate that you can get, the lowest confidence estimate that you can get. It is plausible that they have a correct number here. So then they have a proportion of extinction in Australia of endemic species, plant, fish, frogs, and terrestrial reptiles, birds, and mammals. And they have 3 different estimates for lower to upper bounds, and then they give their justification for their arbitrary selection of these percentages, which I'm not going to go through here, but it's basically entirely arbitrary, cherry-picked for proportions. But their estimate, not even an estimate, it's their, what would you call this? Their average number of extinct species, which is what this article was referencing, is 9,111. But their range is orders of magnitude difference. They have the upper range of up to 56,000 species in Australia have gone extinct in the last 200 years. Invertebrates, non-marine invertebrates, have gone extinct in the last 200 years, with the official estimate by the Australian government being 10. So it's a little insane. And all these 56,000 are ghost extinctions, is what they're calling them. Basically, we never knew the species existed. There is no record of them existing. These are species without names, and they're not species that we have any fossil records of or extinction records of. So there's no way to verify any of this nonsense. So not only is everything cherry-picked and just insane, but their data is unverifiable. Or not even their data, their results are unverifiable. It is the ultimate masturbatory research project. It's not science, because science requires that your results and your predictions be verifiable and be replicatable. None of this is that. How this was published, I don't know. But one of the interesting things about this, or not interesting, really, horrifying things about this, is that they talk about the marine rate of extinction, or the rate of extinction for marine invertebrates in Australia, by their own estimates, seems to be really, really low compared to the terrestrial extinction rate, which is wild. Because if you look at other extinction events, large extinction events in Earth's history, there are 5 big ones. Almost all the major extinction events disproportionately affect the marine environment. You have the Endornivician extinction, which is primarily a marine extinction, the late Devonian extinction, which is primarily a marine extinction, the Permian extinction, which is primarily a marine extinction, the Cretaceous extinction, which is primarily a marine extinction, and the only one that's different is the Triassic extinction, which was primarily a terrestrial extinction with heavy damage to the marine environment. But with these people's estimates for extinction, the marine environment seems to be largely unaffected, which to me says all of their estimates are absolute bullshit. But one of the things that they have going for this ghost extinction thing, in their own minds at least, is that there were a couple years ago, not even a couple at this point, it was like 15 years ago at this point, there was a series of papers published on the supposedly the rapid extinction of land snails, which weren't being documented by government agencies. And they reference that somewhere in here. But I found the paper and I pulled it up, and this is the paper. It's called Not Knowing, Not Recording, Not Listing Numerous Unnoted or Unnoticed Mollusk Extinctions, which, to be fair, these things would go unnoticed because there's really not that many people working on mollusks. Compared to insects, at least. I mean, there's thousands and really tens of thousands of entomologists, but not as many malacologists. So, with these, and these are specific to land mollusks, because apparently, again, the marine mollusks were unaffected, shockingly. But how this paper got published in Conservation Biology, and it is once again over the top, and really has no data and no methodology, and it's just blind, retarded estimates. Basically, if you read their methods were, we looked at the list of threatened and extinct mollusks, and also non-threatened species, by IUCN, on the IUCN Red List. We called people and emailed people, asking them if they thought that these species were still existing, threatened, or extinct. So extant or extinct. And then they told us what they thought, and if they didn't have any data or publications, we just labeled that as personal communication, and that was the extent of the data collection. And we asked like 25 people in the field about what they thought about these mollusks being extinct or extant. So we use these people's personal communications as our data somehow. And from that list, we made a new list of things that we should consider extinct. Again, no one went out to collect data on any of this. With a lot of these species that they were talking about, no one actually knows the range or the habitat of a lot of these species. Sometimes they were only ever found on one island one time, so we don't actually have any information. But because someone that we talked to said it was extinct and didn't present any data, we just either labeled it extinct or possibly extinct. And just it's just insane that this was ever published. We provisionally considered species listed as extinct for which we could find no published reference. What the hell is that? And then also we considered them provisionally extinct or possibly extinct if we couldn't find references on their name being changed or sunk into a new taxonomic category. This isn't data. This is just, again, masturbatory conservation biology bullshit. Like, these people should feel bad because their research is bad. None of this is replicatable. No new information has been added to the scientific body of knowledge. There's no data here to even go through and parse. It's just them taking the word for it of these other people. Trust me, bro, is now apparently sufficient to get yourself published. And this paper builds off of this previous snail paper. It's the same sort of BS. So basically, conservation biology is, I would assume, in a death spiral. Like, if you were to take any information from this, I assume the whole field is in a death spiral, because there's no way that you can call yourself a real scientific field with this level of or this standard of work. Like, I don't even know what you call this. It's not even work. But a chatbot could have produced this entire paper. If you had just said, ChatGPT, I want you to trawl through Google Scholar, extract numbers on these subjects, and then make an estimate for whatever my parameter is based off of what you've trawled off the internet, you could have had the whole paper written without any human input. It's really, really sad. And with that, I'll talk to you guys later. Remember to like and subscribe. See you around.